Guys, Bethesda just dropped a trailer for the Automatron DLC, and let me tell you, it's epic as hell. I'll leave a link down below for those of you who haven't watched it yet, which I definitely recommend before watching this video. Anyways, I don't want to beat around the bush too much, so let's just get straight into this trailer analysis. The first and most important thing is that this DLC will be coming out on March 22nd. So mark your calendars because chances are you're not going to be leaving your couch next Tuesday. Next up, let's talk about the Automatron quest line. Now, we already knew that a quest was going to be associated with this DLC, since Todd Howard straight up came out and said it. However, did anyone else get the vibe from this trailer that the quest is actually going to be fairly big? I mean, I personally thought that the quest line would be really short, and the focus for this DLC would be a lot more on building robots, and while that opinion hasn't entirely changed, this trailer makes it seem as though the storyline is decently sized. So my first prediction is a slightly bigger quest line than we initially thought. Next, let's talk new enemies because there were quite a few of them shown off in this trailer. First off, we have this guy who definitely appears to be some sort of variant of the Assaultron. I'm not going to count him as an entirely new enemy, but he's definitely worth noting. Next, we have this thing, which is definitely not an enemy that we've seen before in Fallout 4. There are a total of 8 standard robotic creatures in Fallout 4, the Assaultron, iBot, Miss Nanny, Mr. Gutsy, Mr. Handy, Protectron, Sentrybot, and Synth, but this thing doesn't seem to fit into any of those categories, which makes for at least one new robotic enemy. Another really interesting robot is this one, which also really doesn't look like anything we've seen before. If you watch back the footage, it seems to be fairly fast moving and has dangerous twin blades on each arm. So at this point we've got at least 2 new robotic enemies. At the 23-second mark, we see the player crafting a robot that also seems to be new. It does have the bottom of a Robobrain, but the upper body looks new, so I'm tentatively counting it as a 3rd new robotic creature. Then we've got this crazy looking thing 25 seconds into the trailer, and besides looking totally badass, I've definitely never seen anything like this thing before, so I'm counting it as a 4th new enemy. At 45 seconds, we see what again appears to be a new robotic enemy, although there is a chance it could be a variant of a previously mentioned new enemy. I'm still counting it as a new one though, so that's 5 new enemies. Finally, we of course have the Robobrain, which makes for 6 new robotic enemies. Now, I personally would rather be tentative with my predictions, so instead of saying 6 new enemies for certain, I'm going to say that there will be somewhere between 3 and 6 new robotic enemies introduced in the Automatron DLC. The next subject I want to discuss is new weapons, since I saw at least 3 new weapons introduced in this trailer. First up, we have this melee weapon, which doesn't appear to be something we've ever seen before in Fallout 4. Then we've also got this thing, which actually seems to be the head of an Assaultron, meaning the Assaultron laser has been turned into a weapon that's usable by the player in this DLC, which is really cool. It also looks like we'll be able to use the iBot's spherical body as a helmet if this screenshot is any indication. Finally, at 51 seconds, we see the player holding what definitely seems to be the lightning chain gun, which appears to do chain damage from one enemy to another. That is, if it hits one enemy, the lightning will branch off and hit other enemies in the near vicinity, which is definitely going to make for a really powerful weapon. Also, I'm almost certain that the lightning chain gun will be classified as an energy weapon. Another thing I absolutely have to address is the new crafting mechanic that will allow you to make your own robot companions. Specifically, between 18 seconds and 26 seconds in the trailer, a sequence is shown displaying many of the possible robots that you can make. Now, to be honest, not really too much is new here, since we already knew about this functionality going into the trailer. One thing to note though is that there are quite a few new robotic parts, most likely due to the new enemies that I was discussing earlier. Another interesting thing is that there appears to be some sort of new robot crafting station that will be introduced in this DLC, which isn't too much of a surprise either. Oh, and also, just for kicks, I want to point out the teddy bear head on top of the robot at 26 seconds. Moving on, at 9 seconds in the trailer, the player appears to be entering some sort of vault. Obviously, this isn't the standard vault of the Fallout series, but I'm predicting that this area will be the location of your final showdown with the Mechanist. And speaking of the Mechanist, let's compare him side by side with the Mechanist from Fallout 3. The first thing to note is that they definitely look different in terms of the gear that they're wearing. Their outfits are obviously pretty similar, but there are a couple of subtle distinctions. Moreover, I did a short comparison of their voices, and it's hard to tell for certain since the Mechanist's voice is more distorted in the trailer, but I think that they might be from different people. Finally, I want to note that the Mechanist in this trailer appears to be much more hostile than the one from Fallout 3, who actually had good intentions. So, my conclusion is that the Mechanist you face in the Automatron DLC is a different person from the one back in Fallout 3. Lastly, and this is arguably the most important thing to take away from this video, one thing I've been noticing is that there is a pretty huge overlap between the items that can be used by the player and the items that can be modded onto robots. For instance, the player can use the Eyebot's body as a helmet and the Assaultron's head as a laser. So, in my opinion, a lot of the items that you can mod onto robots will also be available now as weapons and armor for the player. And perhaps even vice versa, maybe you'll be able to mod stuff like laser rifles and plasma weapons onto your robots. The reason why this is such an important prediction is that if it's true, it means Bethesda has just expanded the amount of options you have for your character by a lot, because there are a ton of parts being introduced in this DLC. And while certainly not all of them will be player usable, I expect a decent chunk of them will be usable by the player. Well, alright folks, that is pretty much gonna do it for this video. As always, if you enjoyed or if you found this video informative, be sure to drop me a like down below and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for more Fallout 4 content in the future. Also, I'm sure to have missed more than a few things in my analysis of this trailer, since there was actually quite a bit to break down, so be sure to let me know your thoughts on the trailer and what you noticed down below in the comments. Otherwise, I hope you all have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video.